was a cold winter evening when I found myself at a house party, one of those legendary high school ones that buzzed with excitement. Little did I know that this would be a night I would never forget. As I walked into the crowded house, I was instantly overwhelmed. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and cheap alcohol, and the pulsating beats of the music threatened to drown out any coherent thought. My friends surrounded me, their laughter and chatter echoing through the chaotic atmosphere. Being the responsible one, I had decided to be the designated driver for the night. It was a role I had taken on willingly, promising to get everyone home safely. But fate had something else in store for me, something far more sinister. As the night wore on and the party raged on, I noticed a stranger standing alone in a corner. He was tall and skinny, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. Curiosity gnawed at me, and against my better judgment, I approached him. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked, trying to sound nonchalant. He turned to me, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I'm fine, just waiting for a ride. Mind giving me a lift?" His request caught me off guard. I hesitated for a moment, then agreed to give the odd guy a ride. Once in the car, I realized looking at Apple Maps that dropping off my friends first, and then driving this stranger home was the most convenient. So despite my growing unease, I began driving. One by one, I dropped off my friends at their houses, bidding them goodnight and promising to meet up again soon. With each departure, a sense of fear crept over me. The quiet streets seemed to stretch out endlessly before us, intensifying the feeling of isolation. As I finished dropping my last friend off, the atmosphere inside the car grew increasingly uncomfortable. The stranger's presence became suffocating, his occasional glances in my direction filled with a mix of curiosity and something far more sinister. I could feel his eyes on me, as though he was studying every inch of my body. A chilling silence hung in the air, broken only by the steady rhythm of rain against the windshield. The road twisted and turned, leading us deeper into the darkness. Panic welled up within me, urging me to turn back, to escape from this nightmarish situation. Suddenly, the stranger's voice pierced through the silence like a blade. "You know, I have a secret," he whispered, his voice laced with an eerie calmness. "A secret that could change your life forever." Fear gripped me, my fingers tightening around the steering wheel. My mind raced, searching for a way out, but there seemed to be no escape. The car slowed to a crawl, and my heart pounded in my chest as the stranger's intentions became clear. Without warning, he lunged at me, his hands wrapping around my throat with a bone-chilling strength. The world around me blurred as I fought for air, my vision fading to black. When I finally came to, I found myself alone in the car, parked by the side of a desolate road. The rain had subsided, but an eerie silence hung in the air. Shakily, I stumbled out of the car, my body bruised and my mind filled with unspeakable terror. To this day, I cannot explain what transpired that night. The memory of the stranger's sinister intentions haunts my every thought, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a smiling face. It serves as a grim warning to never trust a stranger.
One summer in mid-August 2013, my friends and I embarked on a camping trip, celebrating our recent accomplishment of graduating high school. We picked a spot a couple of hours north of our homes in the city and were eager to get camping. On the first day, we found a secluded spot in the heart of the forest, far from the prying eyes of civilization. As we set up camp, we laughed, making jokes about senior year and how great it had been. We started a fire after setting up our tent, and the aroma of roasting hot dogs and melting s'mores wafted through the air, teasing our senses. As night descended, we huddled around the flickering flames, trading stories and relishing the companionship of friends. The nocturnal symphony of rustling leaves and distant hoots of owls provided a soothing backdrop to our conversations. Fatigue eventually claimed our weary bodies, and we retreated to the shelter of our tent at about midnight. I fell asleep pretty easily as I was extremely tired. I still remember a couple of my friends still awake, talking and giggling as I was pulled into a realm where dreams intertwined with the fabric of reality. In my dreams that night, I could hear screams, at first faint, but growing louder and more desperate with each passing moment. Voices cried out, pleading for help and calling my name. Driven by a sense of urgency, in my dream, I sought to respond, to reach out to the tormented souls who called my name. Suddenly, a jolt of awareness surged through my body, ripping me from the clutches of sleep. I woke up. The morning light spilled into the tent, casting a pale glow upon my surroundings. Disoriented and trembling, I sat up, the remnants of my dreams clinging to my consciousness. Rubbing my eyes to clear my vision, a shiver traced a chilling path down my spine as my gaze shifted to my friends, their still bodies lying motionless beside me. Horror flooded my being as I noticed the blood and bruises on their bodies, marked by the cruel strokes of violence. Terror constricted my throat, rendering me speechless as I stumbled out of the tent, gasping for air. The serenity of nature had transformed into a haunting nightmare. Panic gripped my heart as the realization took hold. Those anguished voices that had invaded my dreams were not figments of my imagination, but the voices of my friends calling for help from whatever it was that killed them. Fear propelled me forward, my pounding heart driving my desperate escape from that blood-soaked campsite. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I sprinted through the woods, my mind tormented by questions of who or what had orchestrated this heinous act. The forest swallowed my screams, amplifying the weight of my anguish. Alone and scarred, I became a shattered vessel, forever marked by the cruel hands of fate. The shadows of that cursed night would forever linger, etching themselves into the darkest corners of my soul, and I would forever remain scarred for life from that night. Hi everyone. This may be a long shot, but I'm wondering if anyone else out there remembers the 2001 summer blackout. I remember it like it was yesterday, that eerie night in the summer of 2001. The sun had set, casting long shadows over my quiet suburban neighborhood. I was in college at the time, but came back to stay with my family over summer vacation. As dusk settled in, the neighborhood plunged into darkness. A blackout, they called it. The sudden absence of electricity sent a chill down my spine. I stumbled through the pitch-black hallway, desperately searching for a source of light. My hand brushed against the cold metal of the radio, its soft glow barely illuminating the room. My family and I turned the dial, searching for any signs of life, when a crackling voice cut through the static. "This is a public safety announcement. Stay inside," it commanded, an eerie calmness underlying its tone. "Close all blinds and shut all windows. Do not look outside. I repeat, do not look outside." Fear washed over me, my heart pounded in my chest. My family and I quickly rushed to obey the voice, closing the blinds one by one and sealing off the outside world. Strange noises filtered through the closed windows, distant and unidentifiable. But I dared not peek. I heeded the voice's warning, unwilling to discover what lay beyond the safety of my home. The next few days were a blur of uncertainty and mounting tension. The blackout persisted, the world outside shrouded in darkness. The voice on the radio returned, but this time its message took a chilling turn. "Emergency," it urged urgently. "Seek shelter in your basement. Lock all doors. Do not let anyone in." My family all rushed downstairs, once again obeying the voice. However, for some reason I couldn't obey this voice any longer and not know what was going on outside. Nervously, I ventured outside, breaking the rule of staying indoors. My curiosity got the better of me, and as I gazed upward, I froze in disbelief. A colossal circular object floated silently in the sky, its lights pulsating in an otherworldly rhythm. It was enormous and seemed to take up the entire sky. It moved with an unsettling grace, gliding effortlessly through the night until it disappeared on the distant horizon. I rushed back inside, my heart pounding in my ears. But something was off. My family, once consumed by fear and uncertainty, now acted as if nothing had happened. They chatted casually in the living room, oblivious to the events that had unfolded. When I mentioned the blackout and the voice on the radio, they looked at me with confusion, their faces etched with disbelief. "No blackout," my father said dismissively, shaking his head. "Must have been your imagination, my dear. You've been working too hard lately." But it wasn't my imagination. I knew what I had witnessed, the voice I had heard, and the fear that had gripped my soul. Yet, in this strange twist of fate, I found myself alone, burdened with a secret that no one else remembered. To this day, I wonder what truly happened during that blackout in 2001. Was it an otherworldly presence that had visited our small town, erasing the memories of those who witnessed it? Or was it something even more sinister, lurking just beyond the veil of understanding? One thing is sure. The blackout left an indelible mark on my psyche, a constant reminder that the truth can be elusive, even when it stares you in the face. And as the years have passed, I've come to realize that sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that haunt us from within, forever questioning our sanity and our perception of reality. So once again, if you or anyone you know has some sort of recollection of this major event, please reach out. The night was alive with the glow of my computer screen, my Twitch live stream reaching thousands of eager viewers. Gaming was my passion, and sharing it with an enthusiastic audience had become my livelihood. Little did I know that this particular night would plunge me into a terrifying ordeal that would forever haunt my dreams. Excitement coursed through me as the chat exploded with comments and emotes. The donations poured in, supporting my channel and fueling my enthusiasm. And then this happened. Adam44, a new user, made a $100 donation. My heart skipped a beat, the rush of gratitude and surprise surging through me. But as I read the description of the donation, my excitement turned to unease. I'm on the way. The words appeared on my screen, etching themselves into my mind. A chill ran down my spine, a premonition of dread. Was it a prank? An overly enthusiastic fan? I tried to dismiss my apprehension and continue the stream, pushing the message to the back of my mind. As the night wore on and the clock neared 11:30 p.m., I found myself immersed in an intense game. The sounds of virtual warfare filled the air as my focus remained fixated on the screen. That's when I heard it. The sound of my doorbell chiming, echoing through the apartment. I hesitated, torn between answering the door and maintaining the integrity of my live stream. Ignoring the interruption, I continued to play. Adam44, however, had other plans. Another $100 donation appeared on the screen, demanding my attention. The message was brief, but its impact was shattering. Let me in. Fear gripped me like a vice, squeezing the breath from my lungs. This was no longer a harmless coincidence or an overzealous fan. There was a sinister intention lurking behind these donations, an unseen threat inching closer to my door. My instincts screamed at me to act, to protect myself. With trembling hands, I quickly ended the stream and dialed the emergency services. Panic laced my voice as I described the situation, the urgency propelling me forward. As I waited for help to arrive, dread coiled in the pit of my stomach. Suddenly, a series of sharp knocks reverberated through the apartment, cutting through the silence like a blade. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing the terror coursing through my veins. I ran, propelled by sheer survival instinct, away from my room and towards the bathroom. Locking the door behind me, I huddled in the corner of the small space, tears mingling with the beads of sweat on my forehead. The sounds outside grew louder, footsteps pacing back and forth, the haunting echoes of someone taunting me from the shadows. Time stretched endlessly, each passing second feeling like an eternity. Finally, the distant wails of sirens reached my ears. Relief washed over me, mingled with a lingering sense of unease. The police arrived, combing the area, but Adam44 remained elusive. There were no traces of an intruder, no signs of forced entry. The dread that had haunted me that night would forever remain an unsolved mystery. I have since moved to a new apartment, leaving behind my streaming career and the dark memories that came with it. The fear still lingers, a specter that whispers in the back of my mind. The virtual realm that once brought me joy now holds a tainted shadow, a reminder that the line between the digital and the real can blur in the most terrifying of ways.
Hey everyone, this is a hard story for me to tell due to how much it still dwells on me. Back in the summer of 2018, Me and my friends were all around 20 years old, seeking an escape from the mundane routines of our lives. So we planned a getaway to our friend Jack's cabin, nestled in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Little did we know that this trip would take a turn that none of us could ever have anticipated. Excitement filled the air as we arrived at Jack's cabin. The rustic charm and seclusion of the place instantly captivated us. Eager to kickstart our weekend, we wasted no time cracking open a few beers, their coolness providing relief from the summer heat. Laughter and camaraderie flowed freely as we reminisced and caught up on each other's lives. As night fell, a sense of adventure gripped the group. The beers had taken their toll, making us feel bold and carefree. It was then that Jack, the owner of the cabin, shared a tantalizing tale about a spot nearby, a stretch of abandoned railroad tracks that once served as a lifeline for transporting goods across the United States in the early 1900s. However, technological advancements had rendered them obsolete, leading to their closure in 1955. Intrigued by the historical significance and fueled by our buzzed state, we unanimously decided to venture towards the abandoned train tracks. We stumbled through the town and darkened forest, guided only by the small number of streetlights that there was in this tiny town. The tracks lay at the bottom of a steep hill next to the town's library, beckoning us to explore their forgotten secrets. As we reached the bottom, the group unleashed their inner children. Laughter echoed through the night as we ran along the tracks, making jokes and just being our drunk selves. The combination of alcohol and adrenaline fueled our enthusiasm, blurring the line between recklessness and enjoyment. However, as the night wore on, some of us, including myself, realized the lateness of the hour. The initial thrill had given way to fatigue, and it was time to make our way back up the steep hill toward the cabin. Reluctantly, we bid farewell to our playground of nostalgia and began the ascent. Then, Johnny, one of our friends, decided to inject a touch of dark humor into the proceedings. He lay down on the abandoned tracks, pretending to prepare for an incoming train. Chuckles erupted from the group, but as we reached the top of the hill, our amusement waned, replaced by impatience as it was getting cold out, and we all wanted to go back to the cabin and to bed. "Come on, Johnny, enough is enough. Let's go," we shouted, urging him to join us. However, he remained motionless on the tracks, disregarding our pleas. We didn't know if he was blacked out drunk at this point, or just trying to continue the joke, but none of us found this funny. Suddenly, the stillness was shattered by a distant noise, a haunting symphony of metal against metal, carried by the wind. I turned to the group, my voice trembling as I asked if they could hear it too. Their eyes widened in confusion and disbelief, wondering if it was merely a figment of our imagination. But as the noise grew louder, our confusion gave way to panic. The once distant sound morphed into an ominous rumble, the ground beneath us quivering in response. In the distance, the flickering lights of an approaching train pierced through the darkness, steadily growing brighter. Horror painted our faces as we realized the truth. This was no abandoned track, but a live railway line, in use once more. Desperation welled up within us, and we screamed for Johnny to move, to get out of harm's way. He scrambled to his feet, stumbling and swaying under the weight of his drunkenness and shock. Time betrayed us as Johnny slipped and fell, unable to regain his footing in time. The train thundered towards him with an unstoppable force, its monstrous presence devouring the distance between them. Our hearts pounded in our chests, the overwhelming dread of the inevitable suffocating us. In a split second that felt like an eternity, the train collided with Johnny, the impact leaving his body broken and lifeless in its wake. We all stood there frozen, our voices lost to the night. With the shock wearing off, we began to sober up and we dialed 911. The piercing sirens of the approaching police cars shattered the silence, intermingling with our cries of despair. As the authorities arrived, their expressions a mix of anger, disbelief, and sorrow, they questioned our actions, demanding to know what had possessed us to venture onto an active railway line. They explained to us that the railroads a couple years back were put back into use. We were all in complete shock as we turned to Jack, the one who had told us these were abandoned. He claimed he hadn't been up to his cabin since he was a kid and had no idea. The truth unfolded, exposing a tragic convergence of events, a fateful prank, an ill-informed journey, and the resurrection of a once-abandoned railway line. the weight of responsibility and remorse settled upon us, burdening our souls with the consequences of a night that would forever haunt our memories. The summer of 2018 would forever serve as a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the irreversible repercussions of a single moment's misjudgment. In the aftermath of that tragic night, we vowed to honor Johnny's memory by living lives that embodied caution, responsibility, and a deep respect for the consequences our actions could bear.